Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the show wearefree.tv, the channel of the people, by the people, for the people. This is where people from around the world are invited to be interviewed about spirituality, about New Age, about anything to do with the fifth dimension and the rising of the consciousness of humanity. And as I said, all these spiritual new ideas and aliens and channeling and anything at all, no problem whatsoever, as long as it's not instigating violence or libel or just any bad mouthing of anyone else. That's not acceptable, but everything else is totally acceptable, and we have every reason to interview everyone. So you're welcome to contact us and we'll arrange the interview happily. We have a website, which is wearefree.tv. You're welcome to click on join us, and then you could enter your email address and you'll be on our mailing list. And we also have a Telegram group called No Censorship TV. You should also join that, please. And then you will be notified whenever there's a new interview in English. And also, if you could please share this interview wherever you possibly can on all the social platforms, that would be highly appreciated. And of course, thank you to all the lovely people who donated to us and keep donating. All the details are up here, PayPal, bank details, etc. Highly appreciated. Please go ahead and donate as you can. Thank you very much. And today, my guest is Mr. Hans Wilhelm. And his title is A Person That Explains and Illustrates Spirituality in Short YouTube Videos. The name of the interview is Spirituality Easy to Understand, a talk with Hans Wilhelm on illustrations, spirituality, law of karma, mirroring, and more. So hello there, Hans. How are you today?
Very well. Thank you, Michael. Delighted to be here with you on your channel.
Yes, same here. Thank you very much for agreeing. Brilliant. Very exciting. I heard a few things that you were saying online and I was like, wow, I need to interview this guy. He's very interesting. So perhaps we could start with you telling us about your amazing spiritual YouTube videos. And if you can tell us a bit about yourself, your occupation, where did you live and travel to, etc.
Sure. As you can hear from my accent, I was born in Germany and I lived there until I was 19. And then I just left and went to Africa, where I lived for many years. Then traveled around the world for 2 years and finally landed up here in America, where I also started my new career. I was in business before, and then I started a new career as becoming a writer and illustrator for children's books, mostly children's books. And I've been doing this now for nearly 40 years, and it's doing very well. And this is my main income and my passion, if you want to say, my main activity. And I never thought of sharing the spiritual path, which I've studied for almost 60 years, publicly. That was not my intention, because I really respect everybody else's personal, individual connection with God or no connection. I think this is up to individual, and I don't believe in preaching or missionarizing anybody or converting anybody. So I kept it to myself, but I was very fortunate that I had very intense and very wonderful teachers over the years, starting with the teachings of Edgar Cayce and many others who followed over time. And the more and more I learned the spiritual path, I also found out that the more paths you have studied, the more confused you get. Because there are so many contradicting and strange kind of spiritual paths. The same like in religion. I mean, you are in Israel and there are extreme right-wing Orthodox on one side and the extreme liberals on the other side. And in between, there are 100 different synagogues that all claim to have the one and only way to God. And the same is in spirituality, where you have got lots of different teachings and many are contradicting. And it's really confusing for many people who try to become spiritual and suddenly stumble on paths which are saying exactly the opposite, which another path have said. So over the last 40 years, I really discovered a path which I found the most profound one, because it was also the most simple one, the most straightforward, and the most. And I also applied that what I learned on this path, or at least I should say, I tried to apply. I'm still a student of this path, and I have seen major changes in myself and how I see others and how I see the world around me. And that actually has convinced me that the path which I am for myself is the right one for myself. It may not be for anybody else or for you. So as I said, I try to keep that to myself, but it was many years ago, 10 years ago or so, when my father was dying. And when he was dying, his 4 children were around him, taking time and just spent a few time with him every day a little bit. And when it was my day, I said to my father, I know that you don't believe in life after death, because my father was a soldier in the Russian front and he had seen so much death, and he believes once there's no more life force, then the person is over, life is over. And he was quite happy to have his life coming to an end and being what he thought nothing. So I said to him, I says, look, just in case that maybe you still exist or your consciousness exists after death, these are the few things which will most likely take place. Every death is individual and separate, but there are some general trends, like meeting souls from your past who may welcome you. Somebody actually said that death is nothing than a big hello of old friends you haven't seen for a long time, which I like that line. And then, of course, there is also the light beings which will guide you to the right sphere where you belong, and also the life review. And you will also find out that life on the other side isn't all that different than here, that you do have a body, but it's not a physical body, it's a spiritual body. And there are also still the same cravings and desires and so on as you have here on earth. And you probably, if you were stupid on this life, I didn't say that to my father, but if you are stupid on this life, you're also stupid on the other side. We don't just suddenly become wise only because we are so-called dead or on the other sphere, which is very important to remember when people try to connect relatives and want a guidance from dead relatives, which is very often very popular and so on. They're not necessarily
why is
smarter.
it important to remember?
Because a lot of people think that they can be now guided by a person, by a father or who has died, who is now on the other side. But the fact is that being on the other side does not mean that you have also a broader perspective. You still can be as narrow-minded as you were here on earth. So you're not necessarily giving the highest spiritual advice to the people on earth because you are limited. So that's why I said, be careful if you take everything what comes from the other side as something which must be obeyed. Anyway, I told him this, and then shortly thereafter he died, and I've totally forgot about this. It was only 5 years later that in a book signing event of a medium whom I've never met before, I went there in a bookstore, and as I got in, he came up to me and he says, I just want to tell you, your father just entered the room, and he came to me and he said to me, please go to this man and tell him thank you for what he has told me, because everything that we have said came true. He was totally surprised, and it helped him so much on the other side. And he said, I am now working on the receiving station of souls who have departed. And I see so much confusion and so much people who just are not even aware that they are dead, and neither do they know what to do and where to go. Would I please write books about it and tell other people what I have shared with him? And I gave it some thought, and I thought it was very cute and very nice. But I thought books, I do children's books better than spiritual books, although all my books have a little bit spiritual twist. But I decided then, and this is 8-9 years ago, that I remember myself when I was young, teenager, and I really wanted to know more about life. I couldn't believe what they taught in the churches. That was not the truth as I saw it. There couldn't be a God somehow which would allow all the suffering and pain around us and the illnesses, and that doesn't bisect. There was no loving God if that is a loving God. So I couldn't understand it. And I was looking for it. At that time, we didn't have internet, of course, and I decided I will reach the young people. The old people are usually already so set in their beliefs, it's tough for them to change their mind. But the young people are still open. So I decided the only way to, at that time, connect them, that was before TikTok, that was YouTube. So I just made short video tubes. They have to be short because the attention span of young people is very, very slow, very low. And so they have to be very short. And what I do, because I'm also an illustrator, not only writer of children's books, but I illustrate it. And what I do is I illustrate the spiritual laws as I understand them. And in my videos, you can see something like this, for instance, how the law of karma works. For instance, if we do something horrible to this person here, that is then stored in our soul, in our body, and in our and also in the Akashic records which surround our planet, as well as in the repository planets as karma, and eventually come back to us as karma. Now, in the video, it's all in great detail, but when you see it visually, it becomes very clear, and it helps me. Whatever I do, all the videos that I do mostly for myself, because once I see it. Yes?
Can I ask, are you sure there is life after death? Are you absolutely 1,000,000,000% sure of it?
Michael, my knowing, my assurance, I cannot transfer to you or to anybody else. My knowing, like I know, I don't believe in God, I know there is a God, and I know that life is this, comes from having applied the guidance and the laws that the universe gave us. We only learn through applying what we know. For instance, if I tell you 1 and 1 makes 2, it has no meaning unless you, in your head, add 1 and 1 equals 2. So you have to go through that exercise. So my knowing cannot be conveyed to anybody else. I can tell to you, I know that there's life after death, but it's only my personal knowing. And you have to come to your own conclusion.
I'll tell you why I'm asking, because I've read, all the books, Journey of the Souls, and I've watched YouTube videos, and I want to believe it. And I even myself experienced a near-death experience when I tried ayahuasca and Bufo alvarios and, all these shamanic plants. And I was there. I was dead. When I took ayahuasca for the first time, it's just consciousness. I remember. It's like, and then I can even connect it when I'm asleep and I'm dreaming. So, there's something is observing the dream, and then that observer is now here observing the talking, telling you about the dream. It's the same consciousness, it's the same observer, soul, call it whatever you want. However, I don't know for sure. I really want it to be true, but I'm not 1,000% true. I'm just certain. I'm like 99.9. So I'll just have to wait and see, and hopefully I'll get a nice surprise. Well, not a surprise.
And I have no way to convince you, and neither does anybody else. You have to really do it for yourself. Like all the spirituality, we have to apply ourselves. We can listen to them, we can take them, but not until we walk the path can we see that there is a path.
Yeah,
and I think that's very important for us to remember. That's why my videos are not to convince anybody. If it works for somebody, it's great. If it doesn't work, that's great. If you have a different belief system, that's absolutely fine.
I want to talk about you. About how did it happen to you? When did you awake? I mean, did you awake at all? Did you wake up? Or were you born like that?
I think no ways. As I said, I was a young person. I didn't believe in the religious teaching. That was sort of half-truth. And it was only when I firstly came into connection with Edgar Cayce work. I was 21, I think. Edgar Cayce, it was a sleeping prophet, they call him. He in America lived in the first century of last century. And he was able to read what we call the Akashic records, which is the corona that surrounds our planet Earth, where everything is recorded. And in reading these Akashic records of individual beings here on Earth, he was able to find out their previous lifetimes. And most importantly, why these people contacted him, was a reason for their various illnesses. And also he also discovered or actually developed special healing methods to help these people. So he has done, I think, 15,000 readings, they call them, of people around the world. And he was himself a Baptist and did not believe in reincarnation. He did not, when he found out that reincarnation exists and reincarnation is what Jesus had taught in his lifetime, then he immediately tried to stop giving help to people and immediately lost his voice. And it was only when he decided to continue his path, his voice came back. So reincarnation was very tough for him to accept. And I, of course, also I didn't grow up with this concept. But suddenly everything there was clear, why there were rich people, poor people, sick people, why there were leaders, why there were followers, why everything was there. Suddenly this whole concept became clear. And suddenly when we understand that everything is sort of self-inflicted and we do by ourselves, for ourselves, suddenly I could believe in a loving God.
What do you mean
which
self-inflicted?
I couldn't be before.
And what do you mean? Also, what did you learn? What did he say that made you go, I see? What was that moment?
Well, the moment when I suddenly understand why some people are rich, or I feel it, because we all have to learn something differently. And in a previous lifetime, we maybe have done something horrific. And now this time we have something, as we say, karma, and we to experience this kind of pain, or experience it from the other side, from the receiving end. So it is always balanced. So now suddenly I see somebody who is suffering, who is in deep pain, who is crippled, who is whatever his bad fate is. But it has a reason. It's not always karma, by the way. Don't let me wrong. Not everybody who is disadvantaged has a karma. There can also be the reason that the soul incarnates in this very unfortunate situation to learn to become more compassionate and loving. He or she may herself not have any karma. So we should never, ever jump to conclusion that a person's situation is always a result of karma. It is not. It is not up to us to speculate on other people's past lives. Yeah. We barely have enough problems dealing with our own.
So what about the purpose, sorry, this first of all is the mechanics of spirituality, which is reincarnation. Okay, we're born, we're reborn, we come back for, technically we come back many times, and I think eventually we might not come back because we will complete whatever it is that we're doing here on every cycle. And what about the bigger perspective, which is what is existence, and what are we, and where are we, and why are we here, and what's the purpose of all this, and the oneness and non-duality and God, and there's no separation. Can you say anything about those big words I've just thrown at you?
How many hours do we have?
As much as we like.
I will share with you my understanding. Again, I emphasize, I am not here to convince anybody, but it is my deep understanding.
No one is asking for proof.
All right. It is my understanding that we all were once in what we call the absolute reality with God. We were the children of God, and that's what we call the paradise, our home reality. It was earlier in the time of creation, and at that time, some of these spiritual beings, as we can call them today, some call them angels or whatever, we all left this absolute reality to create their own reality. The Bible calls it the fall. So a certain number of spiritual beings left the absolute reality and fell into the relative reality, the temporary reality of cause and effect of time and space. All these things don't exist in the absolute reality. And now we are, you and I and everybody else, is in this reality. We deal with this, the time of space, of contrast, and the time of sowing and reaping. So now we learn through sowing and reaping. Sowing and reaping, the law of karma is nothing else but the law of consequences, which means when I do something wrong against the law of love, because the absolute reality is love, and that is our true essence. And whenever we are acting, thinking, speaking against the law of love, we basically create what is generally called karma or soul burden. And that we have to undo ourselves again to be attracted back to the absolute reality, the coming home, back to the reality. It's this famous story of the prodigal son. We return eventually, everybody will eventually return. But our work now here is to undo all our karmic burden, which is everything that we thought and felt and spoke and did against the law of love. And that's basically in simplicity, and in simple words, how we all return. And reincarnation is one wonderful gift for us to experience this kind of karma in a very quick way. In the spiritual worlds where we are, the law of like attracts like is ruling us. And that means that we are always surrounded by souls of same vibration, same thinking, same acting, and so on. So it's a pretty boring environment in the spirit, in these relative reality, and we don't really grow if we are continuously surrounded by like-minded thoughts, like-minded souls. So we are given the opportunity to incarnate for 25,000 days, which is the average life expectation, to planet Earth, into a physical body. Earth is a unique planet because it does allow souls from all different spheres to incarnate at the same time. Therefore, we can meet people of a very low development, high development, of all different kinds. There's a constant exchange happening. And also souls whom we have heard in previous or past lifetimes, who may now be in another sphere now come together, and we can meet them here, and we can undo our karma through forgiveness, in a nutshell.
Okay, fair enough. And what about the reaching the state of while on earth, spiritual enlightenment, like the Buddha, like Ramana Maharshi, and a few other people who reached it. I mean, you know what I mean? No thoughts, the ego, controlling the ego, the death of the ego, all that.
I haven't met anybody personally like this, but I know what you're talking. I think I know what you're talking about. For us to reach that here on Earth would be a miracle. I think we are only basically working with our basic things, which mean we have to clear up there are the 4 lower levels. Order, we have to bring order in our life, in our thinking, word, acting. We have to find the divine will. We have to find out what is the divine love will, God's will. We have to follow this. And the wisdom, we have to apply this knowledge. And when we have reached these 3 and at the 4th level, we no longer have to go incarnate. When we are in the 4th level, a lower level, is only the circle of reincarnation. We do not have reached the, what you call Buddhahood or whatever in the 4th level. Most people would not have reached it. I don't know whether anybody. It's still a low. But from there onwards, we no longer need to incarnate anymore. We will then be pulled by the divine energy up to the higher spheres. And eventually we have to return back up to the absolute reality. Now, I do not believe that we are going back into the stream of God as such and become one with God in a way that we lose our identity. No, we are eternal being. It has been emphasized over and over again that we are eternally ourselves. We are not a soul, a spirit being is not going to be destroyed. We will continue living in the absolute reality, which is continuously expanding, continuously evolving, and will continuously keep us busy for eons and eons until infinity.
So, the Eastern philosophies or religions talk about living a life of detachment, whereby there's a clear distinction between the consciousness and the ego. So and a way to do, like Ramana Maharshi talks about self-inquiry. How do you know what you are? By realizing what you're not. So I'm not these thoughts, I'm not these feelings, I'm not this body, and I'm not this and I'm not that, and eventually you're left with that I that experiences all these things, that these things happen to that I, which is beyond space and time, and that I is here right now. And what I'm trying to say is, what's your take? So is that I, which is different and separate, my I is not your I? Because many non-dual teachers say that the I is the same I. The I looking through Michael is the same I looking through Hans, if you see what I mean. And it's just different aspects of the same thing.
I would not to agree with that totally. We are individual children of God, which means we are not, God is not only, God is in everything, in every cell and everything. That's an energy. It's all vibration. We are talking about a vibrational universe. That's what Einstein said, it's all energy and vibration. And our physical body is nothing else vibration. Everything is only vibration. So that this understanding is that the vibration of God's spirit is in everything and is through everything. However, that what I call I, the awareness of myself, is in my understanding not dissolving into the big I, into the God I again. So I believe, this is my understanding, that we maintain that individual I-ness, if you like to say that, eternally. And from this I-ness, we stay these children of divinity.
Don't go out and celebrate, man. What you're saying is brilliant, because it's just beautiful. It's amazing.
It's not mine. It's a teaching which I am sharing.
Yeah, I know. I love it.
I'm not channeling it. I'm just only believing that what has been given. I looked around everywhere, Michael, and I found this teaching which I share the most simple. I really think this God is ingenious simplicity. God does not hide himself from his children. That would be a cruel God. It's very clear and very straightforward. That's why my teachings on my videos are appealing, because it is so easy to understand how it all fits together.
So you said this I-ness stays forever and ever, for all eternity. I stay the I, which I now feel, or don't know about feel, but I am that I, that unique perspective. So that unique perspective stays.
Yeah. Yes.
After the death of the body.
Definitely.
Amazing.
Definitely. That's eternal.
And
that's eternal. And that is the one which also then eventually has to go back to the absolute reality.
And then,
unfortunately, our ego, which you mentioned earlier, is the one which keeps us in this mess here. It identifies with our body predominantly and our comfort level. We want our comfort and we want to keep our body, survival of our body, our physical body. I made a video on the ego as well. It's very simple, but basically it is a tool to keep our body alive. But unfortunately, over time, we have identified with our body. We think we are our body. And therefore, we kill and protect and do the craziest things just only for our body survival. But that was not the idea.
So what do you suggest we do while we're here? What would be a good way to spend our lives in terms of spiritual growth? Would you say, like some people would say, well, you need to control your thoughts, you need to control your ego, you need to live a life of detachment, you need to meditate, you need to be aware, self-conscious. What do you think? Do you have techniques? Anything we could do? Any tips?
Yes, I mean, it's very clear to me. In my video, the magnificent life, school of life, on earth life is clear very clearly. What is happening during this very short period, which we call here the earthly life, all our past experiences, memories, which we call also karma, which is our unresolved issues, are coming slowly back to us. As I said, they are stored in the repository planets, and eventually it comes back. And every day, in small increments, never too much, not too much that we can't bear, this karma comes back to us. It can be the annoying phone call. It can be the fight you had with your wife. It can be anything which basically rubs us wrongly, which disturbs us, which annoys us, which is really unpleasant. And these things are individual for every human being here on earth, created by themselves through the past life. So we are all facing the state today. Everybody faces this differently, but we are only basically facing our past experiences coming back to us again. This is where the self-recognition comes in. And this is where we now can let go of everything. We can clear it up. If there is a person with whom we have got problems, the idea is always to forgive and to make amends and whatever is necessary. So the idea, the quick answer to this is, we are here for self-recognition. And in self-recognition lies everything, lies the next step. May it be forgiveness, may it starting to love ourselves, to overcome, let go of old programs which keeps us bound, and so on. So the key is to be awake. This is what Eckhart Tolle clearly says, be in the here and now. Another word for God is now. If we want to reach God, we can only reach God in the now. Only here we are living, and only here we can clear up the mess which we have done in the past, and we can also give love when we finally reach the point that we are actually here to give love. We are love, and we are here to share this love.
Okay. Now, what about the fact that many say that it's all you? You are everything, and all you see is reflections of yourself coming at you. In other words, I am you right now. You are creating me as a reflection of you, as I am doing to you. You know what I mean?
On some level, that is correct. The outer world is nothing than a projection. That's an illusion, the illusionary world. Everything happens within me. And we can take it actually physically, quite honestly. You think you are now looking at a screen with my image. And you see my image as an outside thing in the computer screen on your desk. In truth, your eyes are perceiving a vibration and bring it electronically into your brain. And in the brain, you recreate that image. You are not looking at me. You are looking at a recreated image inside of your brain. So there is no real outside world, strictly speaking. But what I say when people go into that direction, I says, what does it help me? What does it, you're sure, okay, it's all an illusion. I still have to deal with the anger I'm having towards my spouse, the anger, whatever it is. That is what I have to deal with. If everything is only, yes, it's only illusion, it's only Maya, let's forget about it, Kumbala and so on, then I'm wasting everything. I still have to pay my rent. I still have to do certain things, etc. The reality is here in this life, even if it is a projected life, it doesn't matter. This is the life I have to deal with. And I go for the practical side and says, what can I do in this life? How can I solve the whatever is now annoying me, bothering me, upsetting me, giving me difficulties? Because that keeps me in prison. Whatever I do not love keeps me in prison.
So how?
So, yeah, because it dominates me. It dominates my mind.
How do I get rid of it? Or dissolve
Well,
into it or dissolve it.
Each situation is different. For instance, we can if we have a relationship which needs healing, when either we have done something wrong, we go and ask for forgiveness, we offer amends. We also try not to do that again. If somebody else has something negative to us, we totally forgive that person. That solves the karma. Forgiveness.
What if I have stressful thoughts? I'm afraid of financial difficulty. I'm afraid that I won't have any money and I won't be able to pay my rent and I'm going to starve. And I'm afraid of it and I have panic attacks and it's killing me. What do I do?
So we go back and find out what is the core belief there? Where does this come from? That is something which comes usually very often from your childhood, where you picked up some form of fear, and we go, what does it remind you of you in the childhood? Because you are concentrating too much on this. You're playing this old tape over and over again. There is only stressful thoughts. Byron Katie was one of my greatest teacher, and she says it's all these stressful thoughts. Once we start questioning them, they disappear. And you may find out, yes, you may lose your house. Yes, you may lose your job. So you may go maybe to some other town and make a new life. Maybe that's necessary for your soul. You have no idea what is good or what is right or good for you. Your ego may think, oh, I mustn't lose my job and my home because etc. But you are not your ego. There may be something much better. That's why Byron Katie asks always the question, give me 3 reasons why that what you fear is good for you. Yeah. So it's always facing what problems us from moment to moment, and this is basically how we clear up our nonsense.
So let me be more open and direct. I've said it before. So I've read all of Byron Katie and others, and this whole thing about the core belief systems, the root belief systems, extremely important. And in my case, I found out that my deepest core belief is I am guilty. And on top of that, there is I'm not worthy, because if I'm guilty, then I'm not worthy. And on top of that, there's I'm going to be punished. So there, and that's the panic attack. Oh, this is going to go wrong. That's going to go wrong. There you go. That's the punishment which I deserve because I'm not worthy, because I'm guilty. So help me, Hans. What do I do?
Oy vey. Oy vey.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but the answer is still the same thing. Yes, it maybe not be done in one sitting. It may be find out. And if you find a spiritual path like the one I like to believe, is that I am a divine being. I'm worthy of love. And I understand it from my understanding. I cannot share this understanding that where I came from, I'm a divine spiritual being, which is made out of love. I don't need love. I am made out of love, which is very different than having the need.
I just told you my core belief systems. How do I change them, or how do I get rid of them? What do I do with them now that I know?
If you keep believing that you deserve, that you are unworthy, then you will attract more of this stuff. But you have to really question that question. Are you unworthy? Is that true? Can you really be sure that this is true, that you are an unworthy being? I am not the practitioner of Byron Katie's teachings, but I have seen, as you probably too have seen, her amazing work, and I've made 3 books with her together. We wrote them together, and so I strongly believe it. I've seen how it works. It doesn't work for everyone. Nothing works for everyone. No, there is no spiritual path which works for everyone. But if you want to live with your Jewish guilt there, then please be free to do that, because it also serves your ego. It makes you important. It makes you special, because you really feel, if I'm important and so on, you want this love attention. That's where the Course in Miracles, right? There are only 2 actions. One is giving love and one is sending out love. And as long as I feel I'm needing love, I'm not worthy of love and so on, I'm crying out for love, I'm crying out for love. I want the confirmation. I want the approval of other people, the appreciation of other people. I want to hear that I'm good. And other people tell me I'm good, then I will believe it too, that I'm good.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. I come from the understanding that I am, by creation, I would say nearly by birth, I am love. I am love. That is from top to bottom. There's nothing else than love. And this is I'm made of. I'm made out of the stream of love, which is God. And everything else is made out of the stream of love. So I cannot be anything less of love. But my ego can tell me otherwise. And I slowly have to drop all these core beliefs.
So I'll tell you 2 things and see what you could say about that. One, I'm going to just tell you that somebody here, a week ago or so, I interviewed an alien from Sirius A. and through a channeler. And he said, one of the amazing things he said is that the outer reality works in complete it responds to what you create. So if I have these 3 belief systems or more core beliefs, then I am making reality. So for example, let's say I don't have any money and I'm not in a relationship and I always attract the wrong woman. So it's not like reality happens to just create those situations accidentally. It's me creating everything. And if I was to understand that and to kind of reprogram myself, the outer reality is going to change in accordance. And it's like clear cut. It's not maybe, it's exactly how it works mechanically. Yes?
I've made a video. Exactly. I've made a video, the law of projection. It's called the law of projection, a very short video which explains exactly that. The outer world is only a projection. Where Edgar Tolle speaks about the primary reality which is in our head, and the outside is the secondary reality. It is only when we project outside the movie that goes on in our mind, and we only see our movie. And we respond to our movie. If we see war outside, like in a television screen or anywhere else, and we get upset about it, then this is a reflection that there is war going on within ourselves. The war within ourselves we have to heal first before we can do the outside change. The moment we change inside, the outside world will change. So he's definitely right. As I said, the video is very clearly explaining this, that you spotted, you got it. So the outside world is. But on the other hand, there's also the outside world that we come together create. There is something, a communal creation of the town, the village, the environment we are living in. That's where all the souls create this kind of environment outside. But individually, our interpretation depends totally on the movie, on the belief system, on the dogmas, on the teachings which run our life in our head. Like mentioned earlier, I'm not worthy. That colors your lens of your projector, and everything will be seen through that limited lens. And not until we clean up that core belief will you then see a clearer picture.
Okay, so what do you think about this? I'll be even more honest with you. With my therapist, who is also a channeler, she's a doctor of psychology and a channeler, so it's amazing. I have like a half an hour conventional psychology session, and then it's like, okay, let's see what they have to say. And then she goes, good evening. We would like to tell you that, blah, 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 blah. Amazing stuff, tailor-made, for my specific condition and requirements. And at the moment, we're working on the idea that till now, I react like everybody else. So I get angry. Somebody says something, and I'm like, I get angry. Yeah, or somebody doesn't say something, and I get angry. Or sometimes I want to attack people, like verbally, and I feel stressed and I feel annoyed. But anger is a very common one with me. Yeah, the anger comes up, and then it could manifest in different ways. So it's a trigger. Now, for a long time, I saw it, and I still acted on the anger. It still controlled me. It still ruled my actions. And now my therapist is saying, well, why don't you make a decision not to act like you did? Actually make the decision there. It's like a junkie. I've quit so many things, even coffee recently. And it's like, I want to drink coffee, but I'm not going to drink coffee. I'm going to make a decision not to, and I'm going to just sit there and breathe. Same thing. When anger comes up, I could just sit there and breathe and act like a junkie who's trying to wean off anger. And just like coffee and cigarettes and all that and alcohol, and I'm doing it. And sometimes it works really well, because when it works in seconds. And then I'm like, why was I even angry? Ridiculous. Where's that coming from? And then it doesn't matter what the belief system is, because as long as I'm dealing with the result, maybe I'm just draining and drying the belief system. Who knows? What do you think?
Well, I think he's right. I just one of my last videos covers exactly that. It's called about the free will, where we really have a choice of either reacting or responding. When we go by our emotional pushes, like hot buttons, like anger, then of course we're reacting. And reacting always causes more trouble. But if we respond, which means we step back, as you all say, count to 10, and then respond to it, then everything changes drastically. And in my video, if you want to, I have actually a very typical example, a political example, which is, I think, a very clear one and a beautiful one, where we had 9/11, and people say, well, it was some caused by some people in the Middle East or whatever. And our reaction quickly as a communal reaction was to immediately start a war in Afghanistan and later on in Iraq and so on. So we have a cause that was the cause started with obviously we were sort of, as America was involving in the Middle East too much, so therefore somebody came and blew up the World Trade Center. In response, we reacted and then immediately started a war which cost nearly 1 million people who died versus 3,000 people in the World Trade Center. So we really got it worse. Similar situation, not a similar situation, but another situation happened in South Africa, where for years the black people were exploited because of the apartheid regime. And when it was getting worse and worse, thousands of white South Africans left the country because we all expected there would be a major bloodbath there, because eventually there would be such a revenge, the reaction to what was happening for all these years. In comes Mandela, and he introduces the Truth and Reconciliation conferences all over this country, where people from both the past apartheid as well as those who suffered under it sat together on stage, looked into each other's eyes and forgave. There was no bloodshed. There was no crime happened after that. He stopped the negativity instantly through forgiveness. And that is the real statesmanship and leadership. And this we can do individually as well. We can continue this reacting our pain, and we make it usually worse. Or we can stop and says, let's go, because Albert Einstein says you cannot solve the problem on the same level it has started. You have to go on to the higher level. And that is what Mandela did. What we Americans with 9/11, we did not do that. We did totally react, and out of reaction, we killed so many more people and now create more and more and stuff out of this. And individually, we do the same thing. Yeah. And so you have found out that once you stop and count to 10 and do not react angrily, life continues and much, much better.
Absolutely. So perhaps you could tell us about your Israeli and Jewish connection, since we are half Israeli website channel.
Yeah, no, I came to South Africa where I lived when I was 19, and I was sort of adopted by a Jewish family. So I was introduced to all the kind of Jewish tradition, although they were not religious, and also the anti-apartheid movement through which they were sort of connected. That was wonderful. And later on, we all left. That's why I take the example of South Africa, because we all thought it was going off. They bought some properties from the Rothschild in Israel and built a beautiful house in Caesarea. And I visited them several times in Caesarea, but eventually they saw the signs on the wall and says, my God, this is going the same way as in South Africa. And they left, unfortunately. They loved it initially, but they saw the political changes would go very similar than from where they came, and they went to New Zealand. And my godson actually left 2 years ago, was the last one. And in the meantime, of course, I was married to a Jewish woman. So half of my mishpucha is now also Jewish. And I've visited Israel, and I've seen it, and I loved it. And the country is just beautiful. The people are beautiful. And I'm very, very fond of Israel, I must say.
Excellent.
Not the politics, but the people.
Of course. We're changing all of that now. We're taking back our power. We're getting rid of our politicians, and we're going to create heaven on earth as it's meant to be.
We will get stronger in the opposition, trust me. But anyway.
Okay, well, I'm going to meditate, and I'm going to connect within, and I'm going to create heaven within and love, and then it's going to reflect on the outside.
Perfect. That's the idea, Mike.
So coming back, 5 years after your father died, something happened with a medium in a bookstore?
Well, I mentioned that. That was in the bookstore when this medium came to me and says, look, your father just came to me.
Of course.
That's the incident. Yeah, where he just basically, and that gave me the momentum to share this now in my videos. And as my videos I try not to lecture in it. There is no membership. You don't have to sign anything up. I do not have advertisement in it, and I don't ask for donation. It's really something I share as a student, not as a teacher. I'm not a guru. I don't channel things. I'm merely as an illustrator of the spiritual laws. Yep. So it's a very humble role I do. And if it works for somebody, it's great. If not, it's also great. But there are very powerful short videos. If you really want to know how karma all steps together, how reincarnation works and why we are here and everything, it's to see that, like, for instance, if I buy a shelf or something from IKEA and so on, I can't go by to read the instruction. I have to see the pictures. I have to visually see how everything fits together. And this is what I do in my videos.
Okay. So what about, how did you start contacting people, teaching the knowledge? What exactly is the knowledge? I mean, I've heard of the knowledge. Is that...
Well, no, not the knowledge, the what I have learned over the last 50 years or whatever it is. I share this now through the videos.
Okay.
That is basically.
And what is your mission?
And mission, I don't believe in mission.
Don't believe in mission. So what do you believe in, if not mission?
The mission, when people speak of mission, it often means the ego. Mission means always something big. I want to change the world. I want to give something wonderful, etc. It's usually a crying out for love, for attention. I want to be somebody important. No, I don't want to do. I believe strongly in just sharing, being yourself and being love. And I don't have to have a big mission. I will tell you the wonderful story, which I read from in the wonderful books by Dolores Cannon, The Convoluted Universes. And this story is very simple, but explains it so beautifully. There was this man whom she had in a past life therapy. He was in a previous lifetime at the Great Depression here in America. And he was an industrialist. He had a little workshop, a factory, and he worked very, very hard to keep all his employees working during the very heavy depression. He gave money, he served in his village, he did everything right. He was really a perfect citizen, and he suffered a lot to just keep everybody in his company alive. So when he died, and he came then to the life review, and there were some other spirit beings who sort of say, are you happy with your life? I mean, this review is not done by a judging God, but it's done by ourselves, for ourselves. So we are the only judge there. And they look at him and say, so what do you think was the most important thing, or one of the most important things you did in your life? And he thought, he says, I did, of course, it was hard to get everybody to stay working with me. I also gave a lot of donations, etc., etc. And he listed, and they all smiled and just, And he thought of other things, and they smiled and so on. He said, so somebody said, one of them said, how about the bus stop incident? It's a bus stop incident, he says. I have never driven a bus. Can't be me. And then suddenly he remembered. It was on a rainy day. One morning he walked to office to a factory which was next door, and it was raining, and he passed a bus stop. And in the bus stop there was a young woman sitting, and she was crying. And all he did, he sat down next to her, put an arm around her, and just held her for a while until the bus came. They never spoke a word, and she got into the bus and drove off. That was one of the most important things in his entire life. It is often the small things which we do, the little love we can give to other things. Anything else goes often into the ego, and we want to be, how many likes do I have on my video channel, or whatever it is, it's all ego stuff. But the little things we need, and my teacher as well always has said this, the small things, this little smiles we can do. Caroline Mice tells a different story of a young girl who wanted to commit suicide. She was 14, 15, and she was working on it for a long time. And one day at school, she decided, this afternoon, I'm going to kill myself. And she was thinking about it. And as she walked home from school, she crossed the street, and suddenly a big SUV came and got the brakes and stopped right next to her, nearly had driven her over. And she looked up, and the driver was a woman with the biggest, broadest, and warmest smile. And that went right into her system, so strong. It shook her out of this negative thinking. And she never committed the suicide, and told the story. It is a small love that we give. That is why we are here. And I do have, what is it here? And I think this is a beautiful one. Of course, I like to say this. We have got a poet in America, Emily Dickinson. No, I can't find a poem. But it basically says, it's the small things my life is worth.
I mean, I understand.
And that's basically it. So when you ask me about the mission, it says, I like to believe that maybe one or two people have enjoyed the videos and maybe have made some changes in their life. But it's not up to me. It's totally up to divinity and between them. I'm merely an instrument.
What about the video that got 1.7 million views? That's a lot. About reincarnation, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was, as I said, that was my eye-opener when I started the spiritual path, that, boy, there's incarnation. And most importantly, that Christ taught reincarnation. It was taken out not by the churches, by an emperor. And that was an interesting story. And so suddenly with reincarnation, and when we see visually as I draw it, how we see how it all fits together, my God, suddenly everything changes, and you can suddenly start believing again in a loving God, which is very difficult with most religion.
Yeah, definitely. So back to karma, the law of karma. I know you spoke about it, but perhaps there's a few things you need to fill in. Where is the karma portion stored, and why is Earth the best way to clear it? Is it the Akashic records or something you said?
Well, yeah, that's what I said. Whenever we act against the law of love, that is a vibration that is stored, first of all, in our physical body, which later on will infect our genes and can cause illnesses as well. And of course, then it's stored in our soul. Our soul is inside of our body, so to speak. It can definitely stored in the person whom we have harmed in that soul. And then in the Akashic records, I mentioned earlier, Edgar Cayce was reading it. Everything what we do here, thinks and feel is stored in the Akashic record as a record. So it's stored there. And most importantly, it is stored in the repository planets, in all the planets of the material and semi-material universes. The planets are storing planets of karma. That's why in the olden days, that's where whole this idea of astrology comes from, which is so for the distorted way. But definitely we are ruled by the planets, by what we put into the planets. And in our visit here on Earth, slowly, these planets, they move constantly. And when they get a certain constellation, or when they download something, when they are full, they download it back to us as karma coming back to us like a boomerang, not as punishment, but as a form of recognition, of understanding, of consequence. So it comes back to us in our daily life as something which we have to clear up, something we have to sort out. That is what every day is made up of these small little increments of stuff that is downloaded back from the stars. Nothing happens to us than what we have not already loaded up in the stars.
So let's take an example. Let's say that I'm aggressive to one of my guests on the show. I'm really rude to them, and I make them look bad, and I embarrass them. And I'm angry at the same time. So I've just created bad karma. How can I clear that karma? What can I do to clear it?
The first thing is, of course, first of all, it's already good that you firstly realize it. If you run the idea, oh, they were bad, then you have no self-recognition. So if you now realize that maybe I overstepped my rules, that's already a wonderful step. Be happy about this. And the next step, which is the most difficult step, is to contact this person and apologize. That our ego doesn't want to do. Because I would give up power of the things I like to. First of all, the other person was wrong anyway. This is our sense of condemnation of other people. Make me feel more superior about them. They were stupid. They were wrong. So it's very tough for us to go and ask for forgiveness. But it is the only way to clear up karma. If we do not do that,
that's easy.
This ties us up with other for eons and eons and many, many lifetimes from now on, because we may have to eventually face the person if he or she has not forgiven us. And it's only done through forgiveness.
Well, that's easy then. If all I have to do is apologize, easy.
But it does also have to come from your heart and the other person.
Of course.
And the other person has to accept it, and it's done. It's over.
But if I don't know, let's say I don't remember who the person is, and I have no contact with them. So can I do something good to another person? And that's going to kind of...
That helps, of course, that helps. But still the other person may still linger anger towards you by having been hurt by you. And that anger is unfortunately something which that soul brings into their afterlife and on and on and on. And that eventually needs to be cleared up as well. And so it's always most importantly that we contact them directly.
What if there's Yeah?
Mm-hmm. No, go ahead.
What if there's like an argument, like a family argument, like, the parents don't talk to each other, and then the children don't talk to each other because the parents don't talk, or I don't know, or I'm trying to think about all these land, like the parents left the land to the old son, like to the older son, and then the two young daughters feel that they were like hard done by, and then the older son, it's not his fault because he was given the land. What is he going to do? And then they're not talking to him, and he's their brother, and he believes he's right, and they believe they're right, and they hate each other, and they don't talk to each other, and there's nobody to apologize to because it's nothing to do with apologizing. It's just a crappy situation. So what do you do then?
That is a crappy situation, yes, but eventually you have to you understand that the other person, we have to come some form of agreement, because you can change this as well. You can share if you want to. If you go by an old law, which was written 5,000 years ago, and you like to stick to that one, that's fine. But if you go by your heart may say, well, maybe it makes sense to share this also with my sisters. So the decision is to you. Do you want to live by the law of the land or by the law of the heart? So in every situation, the heart will always win, and the heart will always guide you to find the right way, which may in this way to share anything else which may be possible in this instance. It can be also that you pay for the education of their sons or whatever. There is maybe many different ways to do that.
So,
but your heart will guide you. Your heart will find a way.
One last thing. So, I mean, in this aspect, so let's say that he hates me because of my father. So he says, I hate Michael because he's an asshole like his father. And he doesn't really know me. And I'm like, well, I love you. I want to be your friend. Don't hate me. Look, I'm a nice person. And he's like, nah, you're just like your father. Sod off. So what do I do then?
Bless him. Bless him, bless him, bless him, bless him from your heart. He is your brother. He is your brother, and not only in this physical world, but also in the spiritual world. And he is in you. And
so if I just within me say, well, I love that guy. I mean, I'd love to that person. I'm happy to be his friend right now. I know he doesn't want to be my friend, but I have nothing against him, and I'm just sending him love and good feelings. But he hates me, so I'm doing my job basically. Yeah, if I feel within me love towards him, that's fine.
Yes, and he will wake up when his time is right. When his time is right, he will wake up. But as long as you don't keep any hidden resentment again,
no.
You can't change people. People wake up in their own time whenever they need to learn the lesson. But you can definitely, if you work on yourself to really learn the love and him in spite of whatever he does, then you are doing your share. That is all which is asked, to love and to respect him.
Hans, what can you say about freedom?
Freedom is what we are all about here. This is what because we come here to be free. God is freedom. It's another word. God is freedom. God gave us the free will to decide. As I said earlier, we can either respond or react. We have a choice. And we can also, that's another stuff. I won't go there. But we have that. And freedom is something, so we become free of our karmic burden. This is why we are here on earth. This is why we're here only 25,000 days as an average, to get free of our burden. Most of us, some exceptions, some people have other purposes why they incarnate. But the majority is here to become free again of whatever has tied us back to this earthly life. And when we are free, we get into a higher vibration, and the higher vibration eventually brings us back to where we once all came from. So we don't have to become perfect. We don't have to become holy. Because that is our birthright. That's we already were. We just have taken on the shadow, and we have to let go of the shadow, which we call karma.
Shadow work. I've heard a lot about that. Now, how is every day uniquely tailored for each person on Earth?
Well, as I said, this is why where the burden is downloaded again from the planets down to us in every moment to whatever reaction you have, whenever a body upsets you. That is tailored for everybody individual, because this is also what we individually have given into the planet. That comes also back to us at the same time. So everybody experiences life differently according to their own kind of sowing. It's a law of sowing and reaping. And every day is a reaping of what we have sown in the past, in this or in previous lifetimes.
Okay, and what can you say about Ho'oponopono?
Ho'oponopono puts it so nicely together. It's an old Hawaiian mystical path which basically says, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you. These four short sentences to be said to everybody you meet throughout the day. Not loud, that would be a little bit strange, but to really meaningful feel this when you go to the cashier, to the person, and in your mind to let these sentences run through you, because there are no accidents. Everything is here for us. Every situation is there for a purpose, and there is no accident. So it means that a person, even the cashier person, is a meaning. As I said earlier, the woman in the bus stop, the little girl which tried to commit suicide, they were just passing through in the lives of these people, but there was a meaning behind it. And when we do these things, when we come from the sense of, please forgive me, I'm sorry, thank you, and I love you, then immediately everything is cleared and we can really respond to whatever needs to be responded to, because there's a chance that there's something in the past between us, some kind of karma from their side or from our side, and through these fourth sentence we can forgive it. I would add a fifth one, which means I bless you. And being through the blessing is also we are giving love to that person. So that is just that's my personal kind of little preference. But it is a very simple, straightforward way to interact with everybody we meet and everybody we see.
Yep. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. Excellent. Okay, Hans, what can I say? We've reached the very final stage of our interview, in which you are kindly requested to address directly your brothers and sisters around the world from the bottom of your heart and soul and cosmic higher self and Akashic records in an authentic, direct manner with a request, suggestion, demand, or general message which you would like to impart to them. So Hans Wilhelm, the stage is yours. Go ahead, please.
That's a difficult one. The answer which comes to my mind, love, nothing else. I know that sounds a little bit trite, a little bit overused, but love is the answer to everything. And if we cannot do the loving, then come from the form of gratefulness. Become grateful every moment of your life. Count your blessings day by day. It is really the moment you are in the peace of gratefulness, you can then also love. And then most importantly, to understand that we are never, ever, 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 ever alone. The spiritual world is surrounding us, helping us with our guardian spirit, with divinity, and Christ, if you believe in Christ and God. So we are never alone. Every kind of challenge we have got the whole hierarchy of divinity by our side and within ourselves. So we can master any task that is given to us. And our response to everything is love, nothing else. How does that work?
Amazing. All you need is love. Fantastic and wonderful. So that was a lovely and amazing address to your brothers and sisters. Thank you very much for that and for the whole interview. I had a really good time talking to you. I enjoyed every moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael.
Excellent. And to you, our lovely viewers, thank you for watching. I'm sure you enjoyed. If you wish to donate, the details are shown and have been shown above here. Thank you for watching and see you in the next interview. Goodbye now.